Hey, this is Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar podcast, and I'm back at it again with the Epiphone Les Paul SL. This is a continuation of my review of it. I did an unboxing video a couple days ago and was just not happy with the setup on it, and I needed to do a full setup to get it to my personal playing specs preference before I could say any more about it. So here it is. I've done a complete setup. The first thing I did was I changed the strings because the strings it came with were just terrible, completely awful strings. They felt dry and abrasive. Maybe some people like that style of string, but I just don't get it. They were so abrasive that dragging my finger along the high unwound strings got me this really terrible nails on a chalkboard sort of sound and feel that made my teeth shiver. You know what I mean? So I changed the strings right away for a set of Gear Supply 11s, which is what I put on all my guitars. I'm subscribed to that gauge of string. Gear Supply sends me a new pack every month, which is a great service, by the way. Go check them out. The other thing I did is I lubricated the nut with some pencil graphite because there was a lot of nut binding issues with the previous strings. I don't know if that was caused by the abrasive nature of the previous strings or if it was caused by, rough spots in the nut. I was using a little mechanical pencil to get in there into the fine bits, and I wasn't feeling any burrs or any rough spots or anything, so I suspect that the nut is just fine. I think the strings were really the issue. Another thing I did is I got in and I adjusted the truss rod. You can see I still don't have this bottom screws there, so I can twist out the cover and get into the truss rod. I tightened up the neck a little bit because I had dropped the action on the bridge and I was getting a lot of fret buzz out on the higher frets, and looking down the neck there was just a little bit more relief than I usually like on the neck. So I gave it a couple turns back, tightened it up, flattened the neck out a little bit. Took to it great. The neck feels a lot better now. It's a lot faster. I could put the action right around where I like it. It could still be a little lower, but I'm right on the edge of buzzing out on a couple of the high frets. But yeah, it's worlds better now after a little bit of tweak to the truss rod and some tweaking to the bridge. Now on to the bridge. So this guitar suffers from just having a lot of cheap components. The tuners still are not great. This thing does not hold tune very well at all, and it's really difficult to put it into tune. The metal on the bridge is just really cheap and soft. I'll do a close-up photo. You can see after just a few turns, just one session of doing some turning on the bridge posts, they're pretty mangled. It's definitely not new condition anymore. So they're using a pretty soft, cheap metal on this bridge here. And also, I did a little bit of tweaking of the intonation. It came really close to good intonation on here, well within an acceptable intonation in my playing experience. But I wanted to get a little bit closer. All the strings across the board were just a little bit sharper than they should have been on the 12th fret. So I was tweaking around with it. I was using the Allen wrenches it came with, and the bottom screw right down here stripped out after about 2 or 3 turns. I think the screw itself just expanded out from the pressure of using the Allen wrench on it, and it doesn't make contact with the Allen wrench anymore. So if I want to do any further tweaking of the intonation of this guitar, I've got to completely remove the strings or the tension of the strings and jam a slightly larger Allen wrench in there to make contact again and crank it down that way, I guess. So I think I've given up on trying to intonate this thing anymore. But like I said, it was already pretty close. It's a little bit closer now. I'm fine with it. It's just a matter of this guitar having a bunch of cheap components, soft metal. The tuners don't make full contact when you reverse direction on the gears. So talking about the tuners, I'm there now. Once you're going one direction, it's mostly fine. It still feels like a cheap tuner, but you're mostly fine and you're going to get where you're going. But if you overshoot it, then you've got to turn backwards. And there's a space on the tuner where there's no contact being made between the gears, and you're just kind of floating. And so if you're turning it, you're like, why isn't it changing? And then all of a sudden you go too far and you've overshot it again. So what I find myself doing when I'm tuning this guitar is if I overshoot at all, I've got to turn all the way back and then slide in perfectly to the tuning I'm trying to get, which is pretty annoying. Tuners, they're so great these days. Even the budget ones are so great. I really wish they would just have invested a couple more dollars into getting some nicer modern tuners on this guitar. I can forgive them for the cheap metal in the bridge. I mean, it is what it is. It's set at intonation pretty close. But nicer tuners, I mean, a couple more dollars, guys. It would have made all the difference with this guitar. I dropped the neck pickup down a little bit because it was closer to the strings than it should have been, and the output of the neck pickup, because of that, was really outdoing the output of the bridge pickup. It's a little bit more balanced now. The little piece I played in the beginning, the rhythm part was played on the neck pickup, and the lead part was played on the bridge. I still don't have a full opinion of these pickups yet. They sound unique to me. I'm really interested to see how they sound when I start comparing them to other pickups. So look out for that video. I'm going to do just a video where I compare it to various other single coil pickups. All right, so what else? What else? If you go listen to episode 190 of our podcast, I talk about this guitar a little bit, and I come to the conclusion that I don't think this is a good guitar for someone buying their first electric. Even if you're transitioning over from playing acoustic for a long time, you're like, oh, I want to try electric. I cannot recommend this guitar. There's just too many setup issues that are going to be a barrier to a new player, to someone experiencing electric for their first time. Invest a little bit more money. Go get something that's a little bit more playable. I can really recommend the Squier Mustang Bullet as a great playing guitar. $150 versus the $100 of this. Yeah, you get a lot more as far as playability and, you know, not having barriers to your playing with that guitar. And there's lots of other cheap guitars out there too that don't have these playing barriers, as far as the tuners, as far as how it shows up set up, you know. I mean, you can pay, I think it's like $30 through Sweetwater, and they'll do a setup for you. But by the time you're doing that, you're almost to the cost of one of these things, or so many other guitars that are in this, you know, $150, $175 price range that play really great and don't have these issues. So who is this guitar for? That's really the question at this point. This guitar is for someone who likes the look of it. You love the colors, you love the pick guard, you love the painted neck. I mean, they're really fun looking guitars. I was instantly attracted to the look of them. That's why I went up to them at NAMM. And then that person also needs to have a basic knowledge of how to set up a guitar to their own personal taste, because I think the quality control of the setup is going to be all over the map with these things. You're really going to have to dial them in out of the box based on my experience here. And this answers the question that I asked after my Summer NAMM video. I think the ones that they had at the booth were definitely set up. And they were not out of the box, because they played a lot nicer than this one did out of the box. I almost wonder if the ones at Summer NAMM had different strings on them too, because the strings that this came with were just atrocious. So yeah, this is a tweaker's, you know, project starter. You're going to get in here and, you know, change the pickups, change the tuners, you know, put different switches on here, whatever you want to do. It's a modding platform. For $100, it's a great modding platform. It looks cool. Once you dial it in, the neck is fine. The fretwork is fine. It's about as, you know, sharp on the edges of the fret as you could expect from a $99 guitar. But I've played guitars that have much sharper frets, so it's not a huge issue in my book. So yeah, just be aware of what it is. Don't expect this type of guitar to show up and be some sort of secret wonder guitar. It's a $99 guitar. It plays like a $99 guitar. It has the issues of a $99 guitar. And as long as you're aware of that and you're really willing to work around them, go buy it. Sure. But like I said, if you're new, if you're buying your first electric, if you're not comfortable setting things up, tweaking truss rods, removing and replacing components, adjusting bridge intonation, I just can't recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.